Welcome back to Inside Tennessee. I'm Michael Crow, and today we are talking Knox County School Board District 9. We have Amber Rountree with us and her challenger, Kristi Kristy. Thank you both for being here.
Sure.
We are going to lead off with a question from the panel.
Kristi and Amber, there's a lot of talk about safety in schools. And we've been through several national tragedies. We've had discussions about arming teachers. What are we doing enough in Knox County? And if not, I know many of the schools have locks on the doors and you have to, give your life away to get in. And what are we doing enough? Amber, you've been on the board. I know you've had some opportunities for input in that. And then Kristi, do you think we're doing enough? And if not, what else should we be doing? So Amber, start with you.
That's a great question, Susan, and it's really something I think that our board has talked about. I've talked about with my school administrators too in South Knoxville, and as a mother myself and thinking about my own children getting ready to matriculate through Knox County schools. So, we do work to have a qualified armed officer at every school, but I think that a piece that has been missing in all the discussion about arming teachers are really the things that we need to address regarding mental health. And so that has been a big part of the discussion that I have tried to bring to light. So under our state funding, we're only funded and allotted one social worker per 2,000 children. And so I think, as you all probably know, as we see the needs of the children in our community rise, the district funds much above that ratio, much higher above that ratio, but that means we're also we have to, prioritize our budgeting. And so I would really like to see, and I know that it's been part of our legislative priority, and I've definitely reached out to the state delegation to talk about that, to really think about, so how can we also address that mental health piece? Because I think that is so important for our kids when you look at some of the home situations that they're living in and facing. And so I think that we're on the right track, but yes, I think we can do more. And community schools is one way we are getting those wraparound services.
Is there just one counselor in South or in Doyle, for instance?
At the high school?
At the high school.
As far as a guidance counselor,
right.
There is, right now there's a counselor there, and then there's a social worker. But I think when you think
of a full-time, like a behavioral counselor.
No, we don't. No.
Are there any in Knox County?
We have some behavior liaisons, but they're not assigned per school. And so I think that's one thing when I've talked to my principals, particularly when we see that neonatal abstinence syndrome kids are aging into the system, and they're really there's not a lot of information about how these kids are going to perform in school and what supports they may need. And so we really, I think, have to consider, for the future of our community, how can we support every child?
And before we get too far away, what your position is.
Yeah, I think, having 3 teenage drivers and 3 teenagers, you can never be too safe. I mean, you never quit worrying about your kids. And I think those are things that we need to evaluate on a regular basis, not just after a tragedy. We need to constantly be making sure that those phone lines and communication systems are open, and that, we have an adequate number of armed security people at each school, and security locks that work, and good surveillance cameras, and the mental health aspect of it. I think today Governor Haslam even said he had proposed like $30 million to do an individual assessment of each school, and I actually think there was actually a mental health part attached to that too, which I was really happy to see, because funding is always
an issue.
Well, let me ask you both you guys this. Tennessee historically is in the bottom 10 of education spending. So how does Knox County, either one or both of you, make up for the fact that the great state of Tennessee, education is not a priority, whether it's Bill Haslam or anybody else? We spend very little money on education in Tennessee.
So I think when you look at how little we spend and you look at actually the great things we've been able to do in Knox County, I'm very proud of that, but I think you raise a good point. And so I think keeping the lines of communication open with our delegation, with whoever our next governor is. I know that Randy Boyd is a supporter of community schools, and I've talked to him particularly about community schools. So I think it's important that we continue to talk with those folks in Nashville and get those priorities there, because the BEP review committee talks about that every year that we need more funding.
And I hate to interrupt, but I want to make sure you get a chance.
Sure.
We only have a couple seconds.
And not only that, but if you look at the 4 largest districts in Tennessee, Knox County spends the least per student. I mean, you know, at some point we have to say, you know, what value are we going to place on education?
Well, that is the issue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We've got to wrap things up. You're watching Inside Tennessee. Thank you both for being here.
Sure.
I'm Michael Crow. Tune in next week.